Okay, so today I'm going to walk you through all of the costs that you may have whenever it comes to purchasing a home. Some of the costs I'll explain to you would also be relevant if you're going to sell a home as well. Okay, so whenever you say, man, we love this house, we would like to make an offer, you and your agent say, man, this is just incredible. I can't believe we found our dream home. What happens next? So what happens next is I'm going to have to write a check. So there's a portion of the contract where it talks about what's called earnest money. So what earnest money is earnest money is basically what I consider to be called good faith money. It says, I'm going to do everything that I'm obligated to do to perform on the contract. And in case I don't perform in the contract, you get to keep this lump sum. Well, that lump sum is usually about 1% of the sales price. There's a second thing that you're going to do, and you're going to basically be buying a number of days to do your due diligence on the home. So you're buying what's called a termination option period. During this option period, you can do your due diligence, you can get the home inspected, you can get the home looked at by a pest control guy, you can look at the sewer lines of the home, you can do whatever you want to do during that due diligence period or the termination option period. And then let's say during that time period you wanted to back out of the home, you could get that earnest money back. But you would lose a small fragment of that in what we call option money to the seller. So the way we have that done is we say, hey, I'm going to give you 1% of the sales price, and on average in Lubbock, it's either 10 to 14 days. For about $100 to $250, we're buying those 10 days to where we get access to the property, and they can't sell it to anyone else. So they're going to take the home off the market, they can receive backup offers, they can do whatever they want, but they cannot, they have to let us have our time in the property to do our due diligence. So the cost that comes with that is you basically have an inspection. I'm actually going to go one more, and I'm going to write option money up here up top so I can show you this, okay? And then right up here, we have earnest money. So like I told you, earnest money is usually 1% of the sales price, and these things are all negotiable. Okay, so it could be 2% if we're in a really hot seller's market. It could be 3% if there's multiple offers. It could be whatever you negotiate that you're willing to put up as earnest money, okay? The option period money is either $100 to $250 for a number of days. So it could be 10 to 14 days. If my house is maybe out in the middle of the country, it might be a little bit longer period of time. If it's in a little city or a surrounding city, it might give a little more time. Allow us some time to get in that inspector's schedule. So then we have the inspection, and in that inspection, that usually runs us anywhere from $350 all the way up to about $550, depending on square footage. With that, they're going to do a pest inspection usually at the same time. That's usually about $80 to $100. Then after that, you're usually going to have an appraisal. So if you're getting a loan on the home, the mortgage lender is going to get the contract. They're going to go ahead and order an appraisal on the property so that they can get that third-party value on the property. And that's running anywhere from $500 to about $750 plus. The average I'm seeing right now is $650. So you have earnest money, option money, inspection, pest inspection, appraisal. There may be some other fees that are along in here as well. If you had a pool, if you had a sewer or a well inspection, if you had any of those sort of things, but any dollars you're going to spend, you're basically spending over here during your option period. That way you can try to protect your money, your earnest money here. So let's say, just for round numbers, I can walk you through this. We're going to say this is a $300,000 home. So doing a $300,000 home, that says that this right here on our earnest money is going to be $3,000. Then we're going to have some fees over here. We're going to have an inspection, we're going to have a pest inspection, and we're going to have an appraisal. And then I have to come over here. There's other reasons there's two other boxes is because if I'm a buyer, I have closing costs that I'm going to have to pay. And then the other thing I have to pay is I have to pay a down payment on my loan. So what is my down payment? A lot of people think I'm going to have to pay 20% down on my home in order to purchase a new home. That's not realistic. What we've seen is anywhere from 0% down all the way up to that 20%. And in between that, we have a 3%, we have a 3.5%. These two are government loans right here. This one is your VA loan, and then your 3.5% is usually your FHA. And then you'll go into 5% plus down payment is a conventional loan. So yes, you can buy a home with way less than less than 20% down. So in this scenario, we're going to just say it's a 5% conventional down payment, okay? So 5% of 300,000 is going to be $15,000. Okay? Your closing costs are going to run you anywhere from 2 to 3% of the sales price. And what are closing costs? So your closing costs are going to be things that are negotiated in the contract. That could be up to title policy. That could be your survey if you're needing a new one, if your lender requires a new one. That one could be any sort of mortgage origination fees. That could be anything that basically we've just been nickeled and dimed along the way over the last 100 years of mortgages, okay? So in this scenario, we're gonna say we're at 2% of 300,000. So that's $6,000. So now I'm gonna add these up. And I'm gonna say, okay, what does it take for me to purchase a home at $300,000 in Lubbock, Texas? I take my $350, I've already spent this $100. I've got $350 plus $100 plus $650, okay? Plus the other $100, which is actually gonna get credited back to you at closing. Because what you're doing with your option money and your earnest money is you're paying closing costs up front. So these are not and. Here, it's more and then I'm credited back. And I should have explained that at the beginning. But what this is you're paying your earnest money and your option money. Those two things are basically paying a portion of your closing cost up front. And that's paying that earnest money up front in that good faith that I'm gonna perform in the contract. So in this scenario, I have $750, that's $1,050 right here. I have $6,000, I'm $7,050 plus $15,000. So $15,000 plus $7,050 gives us $22,050 to close, okay? So in this scenario, $22,050 is the total I would need out of pocket. So this is out of pocket. And then I get to minus out the money I've already spent, which is $3,100 being this $3,000 and this original $100. So that comes out to being about $18,950 is what you would be writing a check for to close on a $300,000 house at a 5% down payment. So of course this can all change based on which loan you approve. So some people think I've got to go get a first-time home buyer loan. I've got to go get this type of an investment loan. This is where it comes into play having a great mortgage lender, because they're going to walk you through, do I need a conventional, is FHA okay? Or maybe you're a veteran and you're like, can I use my VA loan for this, this, or this? That's where it comes into play. So let's just say if it was not going to be a 5% down payment, it's going to be a 3.5% down payment. Well, 3% of 300,000 is 9, so it's going to be about $9,500. So we're going to basically have a delta of about $5,500 in that down payment, going from 5% down to 3.5% if we were doing an FHA loan. So that's going to take this from $18,000 to an FHA 3.5%, takes us all the way going to $13,350 is what it is out of pocket. But these all, I have to tell you, just, a little compliance here. It all depends on what you get approved for, what your stipulations are, buyer conditions, all that sort of thing. So the reason that it costs, that you have these costs, and then I tell you, so if I'm a seller and I'm gonna go sell my home, you have the same sort of type of closing cost. But instead of having this down payment section, you'll still have a couple of other things. You're still gonna have out-of-pocket expenses. But when a buyer has to come out of pocket 3 to 5% just for their down payment, plus another 2 to 3% of the sales price for their closing costs, on the selling side, you have to pay commissions, because the commissions, it's just a standard in the state of Texas, but it's usually about 6 to 7% is how much commissions run. So if you've got this number here, that would be $18,000 in commissions. But your closing cost will probably run a little bit less than this 2% here. You're probably looking at it going probably 1 to 2% here. So you're probably only looking at about $3,000 versus the $6,000. So now you also don't have this money here or this money here. So it really comes out to be close to that $18,000, depending on how things are negotiated, $21,000 to close on a home as a seller. So it's the same 6 to 7% on the down payment side as it would be on the commission side for a buyer versus a seller. And so that's one reason why in the state of Texas it's standard for the sellers to go ahead and pay the commissions, and then they pay their broker, and their broker pays the other agent, because the buyer has a lot of down payment cost out of pocket. And I'm sorry I got a little jumbled on that, but I hope that makes sense to you. You're basically looking at anywhere from the same dollars for a buyer to get in the home as this for the seller to get out of the home. The difference is that homes are just a forced savings account. So sellers are using equity in their home to pay these expenses out of the closing proceeds. So they're paying it at closing. So a seller's not going to have to write a physical check to a listing agent to get their home sold. But a buyer will have to bring a physical cashier's check to closing to close on a property. I hope that makes sense to you today. If it doesn't, you have more questions, reach out to me. Love to get these things answered for you, and hope to really narrow down and show you exactly a little bit more about these numbers. Of course, that's why I like to work with percentages, so you can take these in variables. If you're buying a $100,000 home or you're buying a $600,000 home, the variables it's still the same percentages within the variables. So if you have any questions, just reach out to me, and I'll talk to you soon.